everybody. I'm Rebecca from Thieving Otter Farm,
And I'm Leo, a Southern Biophiliac urban farm,
and we are two Chicks Coturnix bringing you the scoop
not the poop.
on Coturnix quail. So today we thought we'd offer a little top 10.
Yep. Top
Top
10 worst.
top 10 worst hatching mistakes. These are things that Leah and I both learned the hard way.
Yes.
We've been there. We've made mistakes.
Done pretty much all of them.
Yep, pretty much. And we're going to help you learn from our mistakes, hopefully.
Yes.
So, these are the top 10 mistakes that people make when they are hatching quail eggs. So let's start with this one. Resting.
So this is going to have to do with if you have eggs shipped in, and that is giving them.
If you're driving an hour, you're still bouncing.
Oh, true.
Yeah. So
yeah, bumpy back roads or something.
Yeah, totally.
So if your eggs have taken a ride, it's really important to give them a rest.
And what does that mean? What is resting to you? What do you want to see?
Them sitting in a position for a long period of time for at least 24 hours and not being moved, not being rolled around, not being touched.
Exactly. And it's important to note that that position is with the eggs sitting upright with the pointy end down and the blunt end up. And Leah, why is that?
Because we want that air sac that's inside of the egg to settle at that blunt end, so that it's in the perfect position for when the chicks go to hatch.
Exactly. So, especially if the eggs are shipped, those boxes are getting tossed and turned and tumbled and dropped. And during that time, that air cell can bounce around and end up where it shouldn't be. And it's really important that it's in the blunt end of the egg so that chick can hatch into it, can pip into it and then hatch out appropriately. So if that air cell gets knocked around, we need to try to let that egg sit and rest so the air cell can go back where it should be. Now, one of the big things I see people doing is they rest their eggs, they do all the right things, and then they mess it up. How do they mess it up, Leah?
So before they put them in the incubator, they end up either rolling them around their hands, turning them various different ways.
Candling,
and
letting
then you
kids hold
can
them.
dislodge the air cell that just got put back into place.
Yep. It's so if you rest them and then move them super, super carefully into the incubator or rest them in the incubator itself. The idea is you don't want to disturb those eggs after you've rested them. I've also seen some people think that you need to rotate, turn the eggs while they're resting, and that defeats the purpose of resting.
Right.
So yes, while eggs are being collected, it's a good idea to, kind of tilt the tray or whatever. But you don't want to do that with resting eggs. That's a whole different ballgame. All right, let's talk about this is I think the biggest one. Cheap incubators.
Yeah. And I know some people have great hatch rates with them, but usually what you put in is kind of what you get out.
Yeah, a couple of times I've talked about Martha Stewart and the Easy Bake Oven. You can't get upset with Martha Stewart if her cake recipe doesn't work if you use an Easy Bake Oven to cook it. Okay. Yeah. So and yes, I know that not everybody can afford a professional, cabinet incubator. I get that. Okay. I think
but there's some really great tabletop ones too that are usually much more affordable.
Absolutely. And unfortunately they're gonna cost a little bit more. You can't just get a Nature Right or Nurture Right 360 from Tractor Supply or something super cheap, no name brand on Amazon and expect the same results from, a cabinet incubator. It's just not, not going to happen. And I understand that not everybody can afford that, but if you can afford and you're going to get a cheap incubator, just go in with the expectations that you may not get the same hatch rate.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So along the same lines with of incubators, we need to talk about like, okay, regardless of what kind of incubator you have, you need to do some prep ahead of time.
Yeah, this is a big one. So like plug that incubator in, make sure it's running, make sure it's getting the temperature up, make sure it's working properly before you have the eggs in front of you ready to go in.
Absolutely. And I would say at least 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And throw, we're going to talk about this in a second, but throw a secondary thermometer hygrometer in there and double check because those readouts are usually not correct. They're going to lie to you.
And I can't tell you how many people have come to me and they're like, I just plugged my incubator in. I hadn't used it for 6 months and such part's not working.
Yeah.
And they're scrambling because their eggs are on the way to find a resolve for that.
Exactly. You know, it's a machine. And if we, you know, all of us have had car repairs, all of us have, you know, had an appliance breakdown. It happens. So before those eggs come, get that incubator running. Make sure the thermostat is running. Make sure the heating element is still working. Make sure the fan is still working. All of these are important. And with that, we should probably also talk about like cleaning your incubator.
Yes. Make sure it's cleaned properly before the next use.
Yeah, if you've been, you know, if after the last hatch, you took the eggs out, put the incubator, you know, in the garage, and then like didn't sanitize it or anything, there's gonna be all kinds of bacteria in it. You know, you're gonna want to clean that out really good before you use it again.
And the dust and eggshells
Oh
can
yeah,
clog up the fan and yeah, it gets pretty
absolutely,
yucky.
absolutely. All right, let's talk about this one.
Ah, this one. This one gets me every time.
For those of you
So,
listening, this is candling. Number
yes.
4, candling. This is in no particular order. We are just throwing stuff out there. So we're not going to have like some big reveal at the end. Okay.
So with candling, I tend to see this more inexperienced people candling often.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you get those eggs in, it's best to kind of just leave them alone until lockdown. I know, you want to see what is developing and things like that. But if you're going to candle, do it at lockdown when you're moving the eggs anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because every time you get into that incubator, every time you turn and move those eggs, you risk either dropping them, or loosening up the air sac
Yep.
or the
Bacteria on
temperature
your hands.
fluctuations.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's so many. I can't tell you how many times I have been moving eggs from incubator to the hatcher at lockdown and have dropped an egg.
Yeah, I've done it too.
Yeah, so that is something that I can avoid. Like I have to put them in lockdown. I've got to do that. So that there's a risk that I'm going to drop them there, but I can avoid taking that risk by not candling my eggs. I don't candle at all.
I don't either.
Yeah. And the other thing to think about with candling is how you candle. Okay, because we talked about in the beginning how important it is to keep that air cell where it should be. So the candlers on incubators drive me bananas
Oh, me too.
because people are inverting the eggs. They're turning them upside down to use that candler. And you're risking all those inner parts inside that egg, all the things that hold things where they should be, getting all twisted around, and it risks embryo mortality. You risk moving that air cell around. So if you do candle upright. Don't move those eggs.
Yeah, and there's lots of great, I love the green laser pointers,
Yes.
but there's lots of great, like, candling tools out there.
Mm-hmm. And I know it's hard. Okay, so this is a big one that I did wrong when I was, starting out because I thought it was so cool to see the little embryo moving and stuff like that.
It is
And
cool.
yes, and people with with children, it is fun to show them. So, I get it. But if you candle, just know that you're taking risks and that you might have a lower hatch rate from doing it. Um, so, if you're going to do those risks, try to keep your incubator closed as much as possible. Like, don't open it entirely and then candle all the eggs and put them off to the side on the counter and then put them back in the incubator. You are changing the temperature on those little eggs very fast. So, and then keep them upright. All right, here's another one. Bad location.
Number 5.
And this covers a lot of things. Bad location can mean a lot of things. So, yeah, let's dive into this.
Where do I start? In the way of an air vent.
Yep. Yeah, you don't want your AC kicking on and blowing on that incubator. Those cheap little incubators have a hard enough time maintaining temperature. They don't need that constant fluctuation.
Right. Same with next to a window.
Oh, yeah. Sunbeams, greenhouse effect. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't cook your eggs. I also have seen people like try to incubate in their garage or a shop outside where the temperatures are constantly changing. Yeah, you want to incubate someplace in your house where it's going to be kind of a steady temperature and humidity.
And then having it in an area where children or pets can access.
Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many people had their cats jump up on the incubator while the chicks were hatching and like spill it onto the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or dogs. I've seen even like dogs go, behind a table or something and unplug it before.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I have heard all the horror stories. Or children wanting to see and then not putting the lid back on the incubator or getting chicks out when you're not looking or, like stuff. So make sure location.
Yes. A well-protected area.
Mm-hmm. All right. We kind of mentioned this briefly before, but let's dive into this. Secondary thermometer hygrometer, number 6.
This one's important because you can't always trust what's on the digitals.
Mm-hmm. So remember when we were talking about things that we did wrong and had to learn from our mistakes? I went through a phase early on where I was trying pretty much every incubator on Amazon. I had one that was the readout said it was, the correct temperature. But when I went to open it to candle the eggs, I noticed the eggs were like hot to the touch. So I did set a secondary thermometer in there and it read 106 degrees.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, you want a backup. You want something to be able to look at and go, are these readouts correct? And if they're not correct, you want to be able to adjust. And if you have numbers that are different on your secondary thermometer, hygrometer than what are on the incubator, if you're using a cheaper incubator, I'd go with what's on the thermometer, not the incubator.
Yeah, definitely. And check a few different spots in the incubator too, because some incubators have hot spots and cold spots.
Absolutely. That is super important. The other thing that people sometimes don't think about is not every thermometer is accurate. So a lot of people will get like the little mini ones on Amazon. You can get like 10 of them for $5.
Yeah.
So those are not accurate. And you can actually look at a lot of companies, and I keep mentioning Amazon because that's where most people buy stuff. If you look on Amazon, you can look under the description and see kind of the specs on it. And most of them will list the accuracy range. And when I'm looking at those, most of them are saying plus or minus 2 degrees Fahrenheit and plus or minus 5% humidity. 2 degrees is huge when it comes to incubating eggs.
Yeah, it is.
That is make or break. So yeah, you might be going, okay, well, my thermometer says such and such, and I've got it, dialed in and it's whatever, but it might be lying by 2 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good.
Nope.
So use a good, reliable secondary thermometer, hygrometer. Make sure that it's accurate. Do you have a preferred one that you like to use? I do.
The ThermoPro or the Inkbird.
Yeah. Yeah, same. I like ThermPro as well. I haven't tried Inkbird, but those would be, pretty reliable. Moving on to number 7.
Humidity's too high.
Yep. So let's talk about first, Leah. Let's talk some science about what humidity has an effect on during incubation and lockdown.
So humidity is important for multiple reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So it helps to soften the inner membrane inside of the egg so that the chick can hatch out and break through that.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has to do with air exchange inside and outside of the shell as well.
Exactly. So in incubation, if the humidity is too high during those first 14 days of incubation, it'll actually cause that air cell to be too small because there'll be too much moisture in the egg. So then, what happens is the chick pips into the air cell first before externally pipping. And if there's not enough air inside that air cell to allow the chick to have time to externally pip through the shell, they can suffocate. So you want your humidity to be around 45% or lower during incubation. And then you're going to raise it up a little bit at lockdown so you can get the effects that Leah mentioned of kind of softening that shell membrane. But Leah, what happens if the humidity is too high at lockdown?
So if the humidity is too high at lockdown, a few things can occur. One, again, with air exchange, it can be difficult for the chick to breathe. Therefore,
Mm-hmm.
they can kind of drown inside of the egg. They can get too sticky and have trouble getting outside of the eggshell. And then they can have trouble drying off when they do hatch
Yeah.
and actually chill.
If you see water droplets on the inside of your incubator, if there's condensation, on that little plastic lid, your humidity is too high.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of the people, a lot of information out there is kind of older information when people were, saying that you should hatch at like, 70 or 80% humidity. And we're finding that hatch rates are, really affected by that. I've actually moved to like 55 to 60%.
I've lowered mine as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the chicks pop out of there fast. They dry fast. They're not getting stuck in the shells, which can cause all kinds of problems.
Yeah. And then they come out, if they have trouble getting out, they're weaker and they just don't thrive.
Yeah. Okay. Number 8, not turning the eggs or hand turning. Let's throw that in there too.
Yeah, we could do both. That's for sure.
For some reason, there's like this new movement for not turning eggs.
Yeah, I'm not totally understanding it. I guess I'll probably never wrap my brain around it, but like it happens in nature. Mama
Yeah,
bird turns her eggs.
all the time.
That's how she bakes them. So
Yeah.
like there's a purpose for it. The embryo can actually get stuck to a specific position inside the egg and not hatch properly.
Mm-hmm.
So turning is important, and I've seen people who haven't done the turn. And I experimented with it myself.
Yeah.
And the chicks were hatching on the wrong end and having difficulty getting out of the eggs.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have had instances where I learned the hard way about not turning, and it wasn't on purpose. I've always been a turner, but there are times when I've done an oops and forgot to turn my turner back on, and didn't
that's
realize it
happened to me
until
too.
yeah, didn't realize it until I took them out to put them in the hatcher and went, oh no, and just that one thing being changed, everything else, because I hatch every single week. Like my incubators do not shut off. So that one change created a far lower hatch rate and more defects. So, and scientifically, you can actually, jump on and look at scientific studies that have been done showing that not turning the eggs can have that kind of impact. But just, personal experience, I've seen it. It's like, oh, poor chicks. That was my fault. Okay. And then I mentioned hand turning. So I should probably talk about that too. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on hand turning?
So there's nothing wrong with turning by hand, but the problem is that it's going to fluctuate your humidity and temperature every time you get inside the incubator.
Yep. And, with chicken eggs, they're a little bit more forgiving because they're bigger. So they can hold the temperature longer. But little quail eggs, they are more subject to temperature and humidity changes. Like
because I mean, if you look at all the mass, there's more mass there. I mean, if we want to get scientific about it, and you think about it too, how long does it take to boil a quail egg versus a chicken egg?
Exactly.
There's quite a big difference. So that temperature fluctuates and they're super quick.
Yep. So, a lot of people that are hand turning are also using like a smaller, cheap incubator, which will take longer to come back up to temperature after, you're taking off the entire lid to do it.
Right.
Or, lifting it up enough to get your hand in there. And that means that it's going to have to now come all the way back up to temperature and get the humidity stable again, which can take a while, which adds extra time that those eggs are not at the correct temperature. So I don't know. Given the choice between not turning and hand turning, I'd almost go with not turning.
I probably would too. I also think too, like if you're not careful with like hand washing and things like that, every time you're getting in there, you could be introducing bacteria.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Either way, I suggest getting an automatic turner.
Yeah. This makes life easier.
Yeah. Okay, here's what. Now we're kind of moving in towards the hatch. No grippy.
I think we've all made this mistake too.
Yes.
At one point or another.
Yeah. So chicks need a grippy surface to hatch on. If you let a chick hatch on a slippery surface, their poor little legs are not strong enough to stay up under their body. And so they slide out from under them and they get splay leg. And Leah, you mentioned that we've made this mistake. I know that sometimes I forget to put my chicks into lockdown, my eggs into lockdown, and they hatch in my incubator, and they're on a non-grip surface, and I feel so bad because it's my fault that those little guys all have splay leg.
Yeah, and I always give them a chance to try to fix themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't use the shot glass method or anything like that, but I immediately put them on a grippy surface. And most of the time, they'll be able to do just fine.
Yeah, most of the time they're okay.
But it's better to use a grippy surface. The shelf liners, those little rubber mat things.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah, those are great. They're cheap. You can get them at the dollar store. Just roll them out, cut the size you need, stick them in your incubator, and then you can toss them when you're done. So it's sanitary, it's easy, it's cheap. Save some headache of, poor little splay leg chicks later on.
Yes.
All right. And number 10, opening the incubator during the hatch.
So this one, okay, it's called lockdown for a reason. Mm-hmm. So you are going to lock those eggs down and you are not going to open that incubator up until the chicks are done hatching. And I know some people are like, oh, there's one, it's fluffy, it's going after the other ones, but leave it alone.
Yeah.
Just leave it alone.
Yeah. So let's talk about why. We're not big meanies. Mm-mm. So, and we also understand that you're excited. You want to have those chicks in your hand. They're so cute. and newbies want to, they're worried about the chicks not eating and drinking. So let's talk about why it's okay to leave them in the incubator and how long we can leave them in the incubator.
They can stay usually 48 to 72 hours. I know with myself, I generally pull them at 24.
Yes.
But they still have like a yolk sac that they are absorbing from. So they still have that sustenance to get them through those, first couple of days before they start eating and drinking on their own.
Yeah. I do 24 to 36. I'll usually pull at 24 and then put the eggs in there for a little bit longer. If I see that there's still some that are like in the process of hatching. But yeah, if you open the incubator while they're hatching, if you don't wait and you see, oh, look, they're, a cute little fluffy chick, I'm going to get it out. Then what happens is that quick humidity change can actually like shrink wrap the membrane, the inner shell membrane to the chick. And it can suffocate them or it can trap them in the shell. So while you may be rescuing one chick and getting out of the incubator, you may be harming a whole bunch of other ones.
Right.
And it's really, so I think the hardest thing is when you see a chick that's struggling, like one that has its head stuck in the shell.
Yeah.
Or like, like a foot stuck in the shell or something. And you want to help it. It tugs your heartstrings, but always remember, if you help that chick, you might be risking a whole bunch of other chicks not hatching.
Right.
So,
and another thing I hear all the time too is they're like, oh, my chick's attacking the other one.
Yeah.
It's biting its toes. It's dragging it around. Chicks are curious. They're just curious little creatures. This is all brand new to them. And they want to know, they put everything in their mouths just like a toddler. So are they hurting each other? No, they'll be fine.
Exactly. And I've never seen a chick actually do harm to another chick.
Me neither.
So be all right. So that's what I have for top 10. You guys feel free to add some in the comments. We might have to do a follow-up if we miss something. And which I know there are other things that, mistakes that can be made because I've made them.
Yeah. And let us know your stories too. We have done about all of them.
We can learn from each other.
Yes.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Please like and subscribe.
Have a great night.
Bye.